What's up, Jesse?
Baby, what happened to him last night? uh, that was awesome.
Excuse me. They're eating the
Listening.
dogs, and you're
They're
laughing.
eating the dogs, the cats.
The cats. They're eating the dogs and the cats. Okay, she probably shouldn't attack as much as I want, okay, because I'm just unhinged. But you got to admit, every single time she poked him even a little bit, he lost his mind. He got so mad about that rally comment, he even came back at the end of his answer to add more about his rallies and how big they are.
No, that was the best part. It's funny. So, my girlfriend's a teacher, and she's from Mexico, and she's listening to this because obviously, with Trump's position on immigration, it's really important to her. And what was funny was I guess, I left a link up to your kick stream on my laptop, so she went over to the laptop and she caught you. You said something like, if she hits the rally thing one more time, he's gonna drop the N word. He goes, "This is my promise to you as an American."
True.
It made her laugh. I mean, I was stunned at how quickly he fell apart. I mean, I was pretty optimistic about the entire debate, which is unlike me because I'm very cynical. I'm not like IRI. I usually think the glass is half empty. But
Sure.
yeah, she saved that. She had that in her back pocket, I think, and she deployed it pretty well because the topic was immigration, and that's a losing issue for Democrats, according to the polls, even though it probably shouldn't be, given what Trump did to that border bill. And so she deployed it like break glass in case of emergency. And yeah, he fucking spiraled. And I think that was the beginning of the end. He was always on the back foot after that. I don't even know if he answered the follow-up question. I don't think he gave a single answer to it. He's like, we got to talk about the
He
rallies
didn't answer
first.
a single question posed to him for the entire night. It's actually very frustrating. It's so funny now, especially as these debates become more unhinged. I can see so many parallels to my own debates. So I understand like what needs to happen or what's not happening. Like for instance, Kamala did one thing that I do, and then she didn't do a second thing that I forget to do sometimes. In the beginning, she very wisely called out that Donald Trump is going to pivot and say unhinged shit about immigration constantly. He's going to pivot to immigration constantly. She called that out, and it was good. She did one time remember to do this, but I think she should have done it more. She pointed out once, hey, there he goes. He's doing the thing over and
Yeah.
over and over again. There he goes. He's doing the thing. She needs to remind people more, I think, when he's being unhinged. Chris Christie obviously, we remember the legendary Christie Rubio face off when Rubio got the T1000 accusations afterwards. It was fucking hilarious. A few things frustrated me a lot about this as well. Also, other things I noticed. Sometimes after debates, especially like for Finkelstein, I noticed this. I don't know if I can ever be saved from bad moderation. And I understand that there's this obsession because conservatives have set the bar so low to appear unbiased. But when one side is acting worse, they're going to be disciplined more than the other side. That's just the reality
Right.
of it. People need to stop being afraid of appearing biased and instead do your fucking job. Donald Trump did not answer a single question the entire fucking night. Every time and even when they would repeat questions, he would never answer. Do you know if Trump would veto an abortion ban?
No, I sure
You
don't.
know,
Because
don't. No, you don't. You don't know any of his policies. You don't know how he would address any issues. You don't know anything about anything because Trump didn't actually answer a question at all the entire night. And Donald Trump got the last word on every single question.
and the one time she tried,
She got
to,
annihilated. She got cut off by
yeah.
both moderators. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Basically telling her to shut the fuck up. I mean, yeah. So a couple of things. Yeah. MAGA is of course bitching that the moderation was stacked, which to me that's like the go-to sign that you lost the debate, right? If you're complaining about the refs, but I think it's important that if you actually go back and watch the debate, the moderators were asking pretty tough questions of the vice president. As a matter of fact, the first question right out the gate was to Harris, and it was pretty pointed. Like, hey, most Americans think that your administration's shitty and that they were better off 4 years ago. Do you want to make that case to the American people that they are better off 4 years ago? And the sad thing is, of course, objectively speaking, we are better off than we were 4 years ago because 4 years ago was 2020, and Americans tend to forget that. But right out the gate, the question was posed to her, and it was a tough question about a major electoral vulnerability. And then at other points, like, basically calling her a flip-flopper, like, hey, you flip-flop all the fucking time. Do you want to tell Americans why you're such a lying, so-and-so? And so she had to answer that. And there was even one, and I'm always kind of surprised that moderators tee this up, but they even teed her up to basically defy President Biden on Gaza. Like, hey, what
Yeah,
was your
one thing that's
administration?
very annoying, she can't say this out loud because it sounds
Right.
bad, but every intelligent person knows this. If she does have a significantly different or a different direction she wants to head on Gaza, she can't fucking say that right now as the vice president, right? It puts her in a very
No.
weird spot. Yeah.
No, 100%. Like and that's the thing that frustrates me because Dana Bash on CNN asked the same question during the joint interview between Harris and Waltz. And again, MAGA was like, oh, that was such a fucking softball interview. Like, no, if you actually pay attention to the questions, they're pretty challenging. She's asking the sitting vice president to publicly critique or defy her boss, the current president of the United States, on a position over which she has no constitutional authority. And again, she navigated that, I think, to the best of her ability. But so, yeah, it's just not true that the moderators tossed her softballs. They asked her tough questions. Then, to your point, they gave him. They just ceded. He had the last word every fucking time.
Every single time. Yeah.
The one time she even just okay, here's the question. What should she have done? Should she have said, no, you give him the last word all the time?
She should just fight for it more. She should fight for it more. If she did, they'll let her. It's just like Pierce on my shows. You see it, right? Like if you start talking, even when Pierce is like, well, we need to move on. If you just keep talking, eventually they'll let you do it. Like they're not. Rarely are they going to cut your mic, and it's almost because it wouldn't be good TV to cut your mic. Like if you feel so strongly that you want to say something, then they know it's probably going to be better for you to just say it. Yeah. So you got to keep pushing. Yeah.
Well, I guess it goes back though to that gender race dynamic that we talked about, yesterday. Like, do you think that she would be tarred as a bitch? Like, basically, like, she's bitchy if she does it. Trump is strong when he does it. Do you think?
No, like I said before, I don't know if it's being black or I don't know if it's her just the general demeanor that she has. I feel like it's not the same. I feel like she doesn't have that same issue like Hillary Clinton did. But yeah, I don't know. The one thing that I thought was also, I think Kamala needs to change this, and I don't know if it can be changed or if she does this naturally. She has when she speaks to people, her natural just speaking in cadence is fine. It's good. It works well. I feel like when she's doing debates or when she's on stage, too much she's trying to speak in the most like eloquent, quotable manner possible. And I feel like if she would just like turn it down a little, bro, this guy next to you is actually fucking insane. Just give like a normal response and kind of like laugh a little, like have fun, like loosen up. Like it's okay. Not everything you say has to be quotable, in a future history book. Just like chill a little.
You don't have to give a Churchillian speech, especially when your opponent has like a 6-word vocabulary, right? I mean, so reportedly, I mean, I read this months ago. I don't know if it's true, but I know it was reported that she suffers from like some degree of stage fright. And so, I mean, obviously that's going to be a big fucking problem. You could even hear her. You could audibly hear her swallowing, like when she was, first starting the debate. She was clearly nervous.
Sure.
But she found her groove. And yeah, I take your point. Like even when she has a stock phrase, I'm sure you heard it a couple of times, like aspirations, ambitions, dreams, or whatever. Like you can tell in the moment she's like, I just need like 0.3 seconds to get to the next clause in the sentence, and so I'm going to throw in another adjective just to buy me some time. But yeah, I agree. If she would just tone it down just a little bit, it would be even better. But I don't know. Like to me, the big one too was even not just what she said, but like the nonverbal body language. Like she looked at him. She kept eyes on him all the time, and he was like staring straight ahead, like he was afraid to meet her gaze. And even the beginning, like shaking his hand. Did you know they never met prior to this debate?
I didn't know that. That's funny though.
They never met. He didn't show up to the fucking inauguration, right? Which is another way in which he's such a unqualified, disqualified piece of shit, because he was like the first president. I think the first.
Oh, he didn't go to the inauguration. I remember that. I think on January 7th, didn't he say he wasn't going?
I think so. I think he like publicly reported that
he won't be going. He has no. Yeah.
Which, that we talk about the peaceful transfer of power, and I'm sure you probably feel this way covering January 6th, but it's actually, I hear this quote from centrists all the time, like despite Trump's elector plot in January 6th, there was a peaceful transfer of power because he left on January 20th.
I hate that. That's so stupid. Like,
it is stupid.
Was there a peaceful resolution to the Civil War? Because we all did come together, and there was Reconstruction, right? Like,
well, yeah. If you cut off the 4 years of fighting, of course there was.
And correct.
Right?
January 6th, there was a peaceful transfer of power. If you ignore the fact that there was a riot at the Capitol that delayed the certification of the vote by more than 12 hours, it's such a stupid talking point.
Well, it is because it's the implicit premise is that the peaceful transfer of power occurs on January 20th, but that's actually the end point. At noon on January 20th, the new administration, gets the full investiture of constitutional executive authority. But that's the end point of the process. You could probably make the argument that the peaceful transfer of power begins with your concession, like the night of the election.
Correct. I was going to say there
Yeah.
were 3 or 4 key dates, and every single one was fought. The first was on November 3rd. He said, "Stop the vote."
Right.
Right. The next was on. Do you know the next date? Quiz time.
I was going to say January 6th, but I think there was a date in December.
Correct. December 14th is when the electors voted. He tried
Yeah.
to circumvent that with the fake electors.
Right.
Yep. And then the next one was, correct, January 6th. Yeah. And every single part of these he tried to fight on all 3 of these. So the idea that there was like the peaceful transfer after he failed and lost is so stupid.
No, it's 100%. And so part of that process too, in my opinion, is the inauguration itself. So I would dock points, major points from Trump if he did everything else right. If he conceded the election, if he didn't interfere with the December 14th elector certification or vote, and then the January 6th certification. If he did all that right and still didn't show up as a symbolic gesture, passing the torch from one administration to the next, I still think he would deserve widespread public criticism. But that's the reason why they never met. And so I thought it was, at first I was kind of confused there for a second. I'm like, wait, why'd she go up and say her name? He knows you, who you are. And then I remember like, oh, fuck, they've never met before in person.
Yeah.
So did she exceed your expectations? And if she did, like, I don't know, like what, because there may be another debate. I mean, he says.
I think she did well. I think it was a good balance of defending them on the policy while also attacking Trump in using good rhetoric. I think she had a decent balance of that. Trump had almost, I thought it was funny. I called it a Biden moment where, was he talking about funding to Ukraine? He was starting to do some ramble where he was like, they wanted 215 billion and then we had 200 million or billion, but then we had 250 billion. I was like, what the fuck are you even talking about right now? Like he started to like ramble hard on some random shit. It's very frustrating though and again, this feels like my debates where like I'll be in the middle of a debate with somebody and I'm like going through all of this information in my head. I'm trying to craft these rhetorically effective statements. And then my debate opponent will just say the most unhinged wild shit. And the moderator's just like nodding his head at both, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like I'm like, my brain is working 150 miles an hour here to try to keep up with everything, and the other dude across from me is just saying wacky random retard speak. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, holy shit. And yeah, that was Donald Trump not answering a single question all night. Again, I don't think it'll happen. Maybe it shouldn't even happen. Maybe she will come off as bitchy. She does it. I still want Kamala to ask Trump a question. What do you think Roe v. Wade was? You keep saying it threw it back to the states. What do you mean when you say that? That's not really true, right? What do you think NATO stands for? Like
what is a tariff? Or,
what is a tariff? Explain a tariff. I don't think he knows what a tariff. I think he thinks a tariff is just like a bill that you send to another country. Like what is the difference between the trade deficit and the budget deficit? Do you know what that means? Like what is that? Yeah, I don't.
Well, and somebody else, it may have been you, but somebody else, it may have been Luke Beasley or you, pointed out that Trump references that they're letting people out of their insane asylums, and he kind of drew the connection that it may be Trump conflating a mental institution with the
I've heard that
asylum, the asylum program, and so she could even ask him, what do you say asylum? What are you talking about? And
what does asylum mean? Yeah,
right. What are the 3 branches of government? All these things. I mean, I think he would fail a basic civics test.
Absolutely.
Without a teleprompter, or she could even roast him. She'd be like, "Hey, listen, I heard you had trouble the other day when somebody asked you to explain how you would reduce the cost of childcare. I'm going to give you 30 seconds of my time if you want to mulligan and explain what you're going to do to cut childcare costs." The record defending thing, I also want to talk about that for a second because I was impressed. The conventional wisdom is that she should run as far from Biden as possible because even though the objective merits of the Biden administration are, as far as I'm concerned, a matter of a fact, the polling perception is very different. She didn't really run from Biden. I mean, she made clear to distinguish herself from him. I'm obviously not Joe Biden. I'm a new way forward. But like even Afghanistan, right? So that is
she totally sidestepped that. And you know what? I give her props for that because and I also wish she would have asked Trump a question afterwards. So they asked about like the pullout. They were asking like, explain how it was kind of like, bungled, 13 Americans died. How did that happen? And she didn't really address that. but they didn't hold her to it at all, and she kind of talked
Well,
around it. Go ahead.
so she kind of did. Came up a couple of times, but they did ask a specific question about it, which is, do you bear responsibility for? Yeah, and I don't know how you answered that one in a persuasive way. So she did sidestep the direct question, but she said, listen, she said I agreed with Joe Biden's decision to withdraw, and then it was either in that answer or just a few minutes later, she mentioned that Trump released 5,000 Taliban fighters, and that he did set the stage for the Doha Agreement, and that he didn't enforce the terms. And I think that that's good because, that was the turning point for Biden's presidency with his approval rating. He was underwater. That was it. He's never been above water since the withdrawal. And the day before the debate, House Republicans in the Foreign Affairs Committee released a report. They swear it was not supposed to be politically partisan or timed to try to, take her knees out from under her in the debate. Mm-hmm. But they dropped another report blaming not just Biden, but her, even though in previous drafts of the report, she'd only been mentioned 3 times by the witnesses. They increased the number of direct references to Harris in the final report since she's the Democratic nominee. But
the House Republicans are fucking insane. You know that, right? It's a clown circus there. The Comer guy, Jim Jordan, all these people are insane. Did you read that 300-page report? I skimmed some of it. I'm guessing it was dog shit since nothing came from it. Where they supposedly proved Hunter Biden, doing horrible things, trading on his dad's name. Did you hear about any of that or read any of that?
So I did. I followed the impeachment effort against the president over the past year pretty closely, and then they did drop a final report. In the final report, they say Joe Biden. This is James Comer. Joe Biden committed impeachable offenses, but then they don't actually recommend an impeachment vote, which they're full of shit if that's the case. Say what you want about Democrats. When they felt that Donald Trump committed an impeachable offense, and they were in the majority to actually at least attempt to vote, they did every time. And of course, Nancy Pelosi has 70,000 more IQ points than any Republican in Congress, so she was able to get the votes. But yeah, it's a total shit show from start to finish. But if you actually read that fucking Afghanistan report, it goes into more detail, I think, even than I realized. It breaks down on the timeline that Trump, I knew that Trump was still basically holding up his end with the Taliban. I'm just thinking of his answers yesterday where he's like, I dealt with Abdul. Mm-hmm. I talked to Abdul. I showed him a picture of his house.
I wish you would have asked. I think Trump actually thinks that the 13 Americans that died were killed by the Taliban. I think he thinks that.
When it was ISIS.
She should have. Yeah, she should have asked him that. I want to hear him. Who do you think killed those Americans? I don't think Trump knows the answer to that.
No, I don't think he does either. And again, to me, this is the point I make. I don't know if it's particularly effective. I think it is, but when I get into conversations with centrists and conservatives on this, it's listen, if we're going to evaluate a president's fitness for office based on the number of people who died on their watch, you make that argument because Biden actually took responsibility and says he knows he has command responsibility for anyone who dies on his watch. But more people died in Afghanistan. U.S. troops died under Trump, and so it's even on that statistic, Trump is just a fucking loser. But Trump was holding up his end with the Taliban every step of the way during that last year in office, even though at certain benchmarks where the Taliban was supposed to do certain things, they didn't do it. So it's even along the way, he knew and was told, hey, the Taliban's not holding up their end of the deal. They're just not shooting U.S. troops, which is only one condition. And Trump continued to reduce U.S. forces anyway. So I'm sorry, I am a firm believer, and I'm prepared to die on the Hill, that to the extent that you can say Afghanistan's withdrawal was a disaster, that is 90% because of Trump. And even the mistakes that Biden made, in hindsight, they were still sound decisions. They made sense, even if we can say, well, we should have done something else. So I like the fact that she flipped the script on that and just didn't take the L. Do you expect that this will have an impact on the election? Or because obviously the last one did. Biden dropped out, but do you think this one will?
I feel like this is more of a standardish debate. I don't think it'll have that much of an impact. People who see, there were probably a lot of people on the Democratic side who got to breathe a sigh of relief that Kamala didn't fumble at hardcore. And then, Trump's fans are never abandoning him, no matter how stupid or crazy his answers are. The media is starting a little bit to get better at holding Trump accountable, but It's so difficult because you're dealing with a group of people that are holding your country hostage, right? Like my biggest complaint about switching from StarCraft to League is that in StarCraft, I don't care how toxic my opponents are. It's a 1v1 game. You can be as toxic as you want. In League of Legends, it's crazy, in that the toxic people might be on your team, and now you've got to be like doing your best to win the game, and you've got to play therapist at the same time. So ordinarily, like if this was just a debate that I'm in, I would want the moderators and me to be as brutal as possible. The other guy across from me is going to scream about trans surgeries and illegal immigrants in prison and eating dogs and shit. Well, okay, well, we're just going to go in like really hard. You're going to call her and her dad Marxists or whatever? Okay, well, we're just going to go hard. But you can't do that because then all the crybabies that watch Trump are going to feel attacked, and then you have to be, gentle with them, and it's just so fucking annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the CNN reporters, Abby Phillip, she posts on Twitter, which I was impressed that she did it because she risks the backlash of being seen as liberally biased. But she's like, FYI, if you engage in asymmetric lying, you will be covered asymmetrically, or you should be covered asymmetrically, which is precisely the attitude that the media should have. And said this both sides false equivalence bullshit. All right, last question. Of all the conservative cope and centrist cope you have seen or watched, what's your favorite?
I mean, the Alex Jones, I don't know if he started it, but now I'm seeing the idea that she had a secret earpiece in.
Oh, wait. The Harris did?
Yes.
Nice. Of course. For me personally, it's just been watching Megan. Well, that was about Taylor Swift, so never mind. But Ben Shapiro, it's tied. Ben Shapiro was having a fucking back-to-back tweet meltdown. And then there's this guy called Eric Erickson. He's a popular conservative radio host. And he's kind of seen as like the more evangelical Christian because he's criticized Trump in the past. Well, he went on an all caps like dropping F-bombs and like shit multiple times and multiple tweets. Like he actually yelled at MAGA Republicans. He's like, "You stupid fucks! You told him about the dog and cat shit, and now he said it on live TV."
Yeah.
And like. He's just yelling at other Trumpers. I don't know, man.
That's
I
funny.
love it. She may still lose the election. It's going to still be very, very close. I have no doubt about it. But just for a brief moment, we can savor.
Hopefully,
savor what happened last night.
Well,
good, buddy.
I think I thought the line of the night was definitely Trump's. I have a concept of a plan. I think that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus.
No, I mean, and you said it in what I saw towards the tail end there. That again, if you just play the litmus test, that okay, scratch out Trump's name, keep a Trump quote, scratch out his name, and slap Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton. You slap any Democrat in front of that quote, and it's just covered radically differently. And I do think, I know you've got a debate with Wick tonight about the Supreme Court, and so I'm just thinking like of like bigger institutions like the court and the media. But I do think for our nation, it's never going to be perfect, but to be healthier, I think that the media is also going to have to engage in some sort of introspection on this because whatever, I'm sure you feel this way too, like you can have an evaluation of a standard. Like we may disagree on what the standard is. The standard is too strict or it's too loose. But at the very least, if you could just be fucking consistent, that would be something, right? If your standard is that it's permissible to say unhinged shit, then it should be okay for Democrats to say unhinged shit. And there should be really no difference in the coverage. Or if we're going to have strict standards, then it has to apply to everybody. But I do think that is a problem. And then I don't know. I hope that there's an opportunity. It's the third election cycle for the media to have a come to Jesus moment about Trump. But I don't expect it happens because I think that overall they are more like 2016 era Trump media than 2020 Trump media. I mean, I take your point that they're after this debate, like we saw some glimpses from the mainstream media about the asymmetry of the lies coming from Trump versus Harris. I just think overall they've really shit the bed on covering this.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Trump had that whole "I don't talk to JD Vance." That was really funny.
JD Vance said that your running mate JD Vance said that he would.
I don't talk to him. Don't know what he's saying. I don't talk to that guy.
All right. I mean, I like that guy, but I mean, he doesn't speak for me. And that was it. Did you ever hear a couple of months ago or a month ago he said that vice presidents don't matter?
Oh,
you know. So like this is like the third shot across the bow that he's made at JD Vance. He was asked about a month ago. He was asked in an interview about Vance's popularity because he's like the least popular running mate in American recorded history. And he goes, well, I like JD Vance, but historically speaking, vice presidents don't matter all that much. And then he says this shit today or yesterday. It's so fucking funny, man. And
when Kamala mentioned,
go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
When Kamala mentioned his 6 bankruptcies, that one irritated him. I don't think he really responded. Yeah, she said it. A guy that inherited like $500 million and used it to file 6 bankruptcies or whatever. He didn't like that one, but he didn't even get a chance to respond to it, or he didn't because his answer rambled on other shit. I also liked him admitting that he would commit crimes by solving the Ukraine-Russia conflict before he even gets back into office.
Yeah, bro, like he's said shit like that before. That's a Logan Act violation. If he's done anything, like if he's actually engaged with foreign leaders in any meaningful way besides like a hey, how you doing? Like if he's actively attempting to influence foreign policy, that's a Logan Act violation right there. I don't know if they'd ever.
I don't even know if he knows it's illegal though. He's just fucking retarded. He's an idiot. Yeah, he's just a dumb fuck. But
could you see? At this point, like following all the Trump prosecutions and investigations, like when the FBI, like when somebody at the FBI or Department of Justice hears something like that, when they hear Donald Trump say, like imply, as he has done repeatedly, that he's having some sort of sensitive communications with foreign leaders, what do you think? Do you think they take that seriously at all, or like?
I mean, I'm sure it's always like cause for concern. I'm sure they're always like keeping their eyes open, but. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it would not be the predicate for a full-blown investigation, but I wonder what it would take because I feel like you can't ignore that shit, right? That's at least worth noting.
Yeah, I'm sure it is noted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if I wonder how different. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I feel like it could have potentially been really scary if Trump would have picked RFK as his vice presidential nominee.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like
RFK was polling decently, right? Like 7 to 10% is decent for a third-party candidate. I wonder if that would have been a way stronger choice.
Well, let me ask you. So, I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, I have no doubt, compared to JD Vance, that it would have been a better decision because JD Vance brings you nothing. JD Vance brings Trump nothing that Trump didn't already have. At least with Mike Pence. Mike Pence secured the evangelical vote, but Vance is just more of the same. So I take your point that if it's a choice of running mates between Vance and RFK, you go with RFK. However, he has Vance, and he's also got RFK's endorsement. So do you think that would make a meaningful difference? RFK as VP versus just RFK endorsing Trump and potentially getting a cabinet position. Like, do you think RFK voters would be more inclined to back Trump?
Problem is if you support RFK or Trump, you don't even know what a cabinet is or what it means or what any of those things are. I don't know. Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. I have no idea. But, yeah, who knows?
Are you, when I came into the conversation the other day when you were talking with Dan about bridges, I think I mentioned like Vivek Ramaswamy and a couple of other people. Do you think that at this point there's a potential of getting some of these debate bro Trump supporters, these higher profile David Sachs, Vivek Ramaswamy's on the show?
I don't know. Poke Kyla. Ask her. I think I poked her and asked her. She's got a lot of interesting people booked coming up though. We've got Brunig, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'll be on an episode I think within a month. That'll be fun. What else? I think J-Reg is going to be here.
Not sure who that is. That's more like just streamer person, right?
Yeah. Oh, we got the Keys guy, Alan Lichtman.
Oh, Lichtman, Professor Lichtman,
thank
dude.
God,
he is.
The Keys.
He's a good interview, bro. Like he's whatever you think about the Keys. He gets under Cenk Uger's skin like no other. And I like Cenk, but it's funny to see them go back and. Oh, hey. Speaking of Cenk, Piers is doing a post Kamala Trump debate video today. I think you should react to. It's not dropped yet. I'm definitely going to be reacting to it too. But it's going to have Brian Tyler Cohen on, Cenk Uygur, RFK will be there. I think Tommy Lauren, maybe a couple of like high profile Trumpers. But I also don't know if you caught this, but Piers actually bit the bullet and admitted.
I saw that.
Kamala, yeah.
I wonder if the winds change, if he just follows kind of the popular pick at the time, maybe. Who knows? But
when I interviewed Mehdi Hassan the other day, and he said that it could be that Piers is just generally conservative, and I certainly think he's more conservative than he wants to admit, but he thinks that also that Trump is likely to win the election. He feels that the winds are blowing in Trump's favor, and that's why he's kissing his ass so much. So yeah, I expect that that's the case. I mean, like, think about it. Piers came out against Donald Trump pretty harshly after January 6th, right? And
yeah, but again, I feel like everybody did because people thought the winds were changing, but then slowly but surely.
right, but that's what I'm saying. Like that was him being opportunistic, right? Because that James O'Brien interview that you watched, that's another guy I think that you should try to have a conversation with. He is so good at what he does.
Sure.
He is the British destiny. He, kind of pointed that out. Like Trump. That interview took place prior to the 2020 election. It was in 2020, but it was right before the election. And James's point was Trump is who Trump is, and anybody who saw Trump prior to politics would know that he was manifestly unfit for office because he's not some sort of, Emperor Palpatine mastermind who reveals his true colors at the last second. And Pierre's like, it's kind of equal good, equal bad. Then January 6th happens after the election. So Trump is a loser at that point. He's officially lost. And then it seems pretty clear that Piers then and only then felt comfortable about criticizing him so harshly. He was prepared to burn that bridge. And now he's doing everything in his power to rebuild it. So I'm kind of inclined towards your interpretation, which is that he just knows what the content is. And right now he thinks the winds favor Trump. But yeah. Well, good, man. It was good catching up with you on this. I hope you enjoyed the debate and were pleased by her performance. I was very happy with it. And, I'm feeling much more optimistic about the election than I was prior. I know it's probably not going to shift it majorly, but Taylor Swift also came out and endorsed Kamala too, and she's potentially a game changer.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, good luck with the rest of the J6 stuff. Talk to you later.
Careful, babe.
Love you too, buddy. Bye.